This is Matthew Cratter from Trade University, and today I want to answer the question, did China just kill Bitcoin? We're now seeing the China Bitcoin mining crackdown spread all over the country. It's now spread to the Sichuan province, and people online are understandably upset and worried about this, especially because China has banned Bitcoin many times. As we've talked about, they put pressure on Bitcoin miners many times, but this time it actually looks like the real deal. It actually looks like they were driving or trying to drive all the Bitcoin mining rigs and mining operations completely out of China. And we're seeing this unfold in the hash rates for the different Chinese Bitcoin mining pools. We have Ant Pool, for example, which is one of the big ones. Its hash rate has actually fallen quite a bit since I last made a video about this about a month ago. I believe the hash rate was around 25 or 30 exahashes back then. But we're seeing, you can see the little chart here of the hash rate falling even over the last 24 hours. And likewise, for a lot of these pools, which are Chinese pools, F2 pool, Poolin, etc. The only one we're seeing going up is one of the US pools, which is Foundry, which has moved up sharply over the past few days. So this is affecting the hash rate of the complete Bitcoin network. This is the total hash rate. This is the raw values. And we can see we've fallen back down to about 102 from the heights of about 166 million terahashes, or 166 terahashes. Now, these hash rates are really just approximations. And so I'm not sure it's quite as bad as this, but it's definitely directionally correct. We're now back to levels that are close to where we were about a year ago. If we look at a 7-day average, it also shows that downward trend. There's been a lot of talk about what would happen if Bitcoin mining was definitively kicked out of China. The Bitcoin network would crash and go offline. I've heard this many, many times. Nope, didn't happen. Did Bitcoin's price drop to zero? No, we're not even at the lows of the previous move. If you wonder why Bitcoin is actually moving down today, you can check out the S&P futures, which are down sharply. So we're having kind of a continued sell-off of what's been happening over the past few days. Some of this is probably due to China's action, but Bitcoin seems to be moving down with the stock market. The Chinese Bitcoin mining rigs going offline does lower the hash rate of the network, as we saw in this chart. Now, what does this mean? What this means is that there's less computing power protecting the network. Now, it's still a huge amount of hash power that goes, a very high hash rate that goes into the Bitcoin network. It's much, much higher than any other proof of work coin, even Ethereum still being on proof of work. Bitcoin has the highest hash rate and the highest security of any cryptocurrency. So what's happened is the hash rate has moved lower, but it's moved from a very high level to still a high level. Now, lower hash rate, less competition on the Bitcoin network for mining means that the difficulty adjustment, which happens I believe it's every 2016 blocks, this difficulty adjustment, which is how difficult it is to mine a new block, it's going to move down on June 29th. We can look at the Bitcoin dashboard here, and you can see it over here where we have mining. The hash rate of the past 2,000 or so blocks has been about 130 exahashes. The last difficulty adjustment was down 5%. We're going to get another difficulty adjustment on June 29th, and it's going to ratchet down pretty sharply, about 14%. And what this means is it will make it easier for Bitcoin miners to find a new block. The difficulty adjustment was created by Satoshi to ensure that each new block on the Bitcoin blockchain is produced about every 10 minutes, regardless of how much computing power is on the network. So in the very early days, it was just Satoshi and his friends mining, and the blocks took about 10 minutes on average. Now we have the whole world mining, or the whole world ex-China mining. There's a tremendous amount of computing power in the network, but that difficulty adjustment has moved up a lot to ensure a consistent monetary policy where 6.25 new Bitcoin are issued with each new block every 10 minutes on average. So this is almost otherworldly software. The design and the foresight that went into it. So the Bitcoin hash rate, the network hash rate can drop, but we get this difficulty adjustment. Bitcoin keeps chugging along no matter what. This also means that Bitcoin mining has just become less competitive. So Bitcoin miners who are outside of China are going to be making even more money. So what China has done has made it better and easier for Bitcoin miners everywhere else in the world, now that there's less competition on the network. Now, we may eventually see some of these mining rigs come back online if they're able to put them on trucks and actually get outside of China's borders, or move to a part of China where they're in a cave somewhere and they can't be monitored, which seems somewhat unlikely. But some of these machines may make it outside of China. They will then be hooked back up to the Bitcoin network, start mining again, and the hash rate will go up, and then we'll get a difficulty adjustment that moves a little bit higher. The amazing thing about Bitcoin mining, it really is decentralized and portable. It has been concentrated in China, at least the mining pools have been concentrated in China. Unlike gold miners, which are concentrated in various parts of the world, Bitcoin mining is completely portable and completely competitive as well. It's a global network that involves global competition. If you're enjoying this video so far, I'd encourage you to hit that subscribe and like button. Maybe send this video out to a few friends as well who are worried about what's happening with Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. So we do have this difficulty adjustment coming. It's going to move down on approximately June 29th in 1,192 blocks. So this adjustment does happen every 2016 blocks. Now, the way I look at this is that China has really just shot itself in the foot. Even if they reverse this ban, as they've reversed bans in the past, this one went a lot further. And when you have people actually packing up shop and having to abandon some key infrastructure, they can obviously move the mining rigs, but I imagine all the infrastructure around the rigs, like the buildings and the electricity setups and all those technical details, Bitcoin miners are probably not going to want to come back to China if they're able to get out. And so if you're a country like China or India or even the US that keeps flip-flopping on Bitcoin and its legality, you're putting yourself at a real disadvantage. You can ban Bitcoin, but you cannot stop it. Even if all 168 countries ban it and there's still one country that's still doing it, the Bitcoin network keeps chugging along. Ironically, it looks like this is driving a lot of the Bitcoin mining action to places like Texas, where there's a lot of wind power and solar power, and it's driving Bitcoin miners to the US, which I think is a great thing. The really ironic thing about this is because we've always been told, this is one of the talking points against Bitcoin, don't buy Bitcoin because it's controlled by China. All the mining happens there. Now, this was never true. I live in Colorado. I could join a Chinese Bitcoin mining pool very easily. So all those mining pools that look like they're in China, it doesn't mean that the mining rigs are in China, but we have to assume that a lot of them are, simply because the cost of electricity is much lower in China than, say, somewhere even like Colorado. But this talking point has just fallen. Don't buy Bitcoin because China controls it. Well, if China has banned it and all the Bitcoin rigs have left the country, you can't really use this talking point against Bitcoin. Meanwhile, Bitcoin's still at $33,000 per Bitcoin. It's still much higher than it was even a year ago. So I think this is a quite positive development. Obviously, a shuffling of the mining network does not kill Bitcoin. It's impossible, as far as I can tell, to kill Bitcoin. This is one of the things that makes it such a good investment. It's a call option that never expires, and it's a call option that cannot be killed. It's really important to remember, and a lot of people who haven't dug deeply into Bitcoin and just follow clickbait articles, the Bitcoin miners, it's important to realize this, that the Bitcoin miners work for the full nodes. A Bitcoin miner can do anything they want. They can produce any kind of scammy block. We've had this happen in history, where after a halving, a couple of Bitcoin miners or mining pools decide that they're going to keep awarding themselves the previous miner reward. So say it was at 25 Bitcoin per block, and then you get the halving down to 12.5 Bitcoin per block reward. The miners decide, well, you know what, I'm going to award myself 25 Bitcoin, even though the halving has happened. When that happens, the Bitcoin network, which is a network of full nodes, rejects it. So it's very important to realize that the Bitcoin miners do not control the network. It's the full nodes, which are completely decentralized, found all around the world, that enforce the consensus rules, and they control Bitcoin. So even if 100% of the mining was in China or had been in China, this would not have meant that China controlled the Bitcoin network. That's controlled by the consensus rules, which are enforced by the full nodes. Now, one of the great environmental ironies about this is, at least according to Charles Edwards in this tweet, Sichuan a year and a half ago represented more than 50% of the hash rate, I assume he's saying, of the Bitcoin network. Today, it's gone to zero. Sichuan is basically shut down. Ironically, this was one of the most environmentally friendly areas. I think they were using hydroelectric and wind mostly. They were using renewable energy to power their Bitcoin mining rigs. So one of the great ironies here is that some of the Bitcoin network may not be as environmentally friendly now as it once was. I think it's important when you're thinking about Bitcoin. Bitcoin really is one of those truth serums, or you could even say, I don't want to say purity test, but it is a test. And it really shows a lot about a person based on how they react to it. You have a lot of people who are very superficial, who never dig down into anything deep, and they hate Bitcoin because they say it's a Ponzi and it's a bubble and it's controlled by China and all these things that are clearly not true if you bother to do a couple hours worth of research. So it really separates the lazy from the hardworking, and it also separates it separates people into two camps. And in one camp, the people who hate Bitcoin, just off the top of my head, central bankers of the world hate Bitcoin, Keynesian econ professors, talking heads on CNBC, ESG investors who don't understand how Bitcoin is actually powered by renewables. And now you can add to this group the Chinese Communist Party. So I think this is good company to put all of these people who want to control our lives together. Charles Hoskinson, as we talked about yesterday, hates Bitcoin. The XRP folks hate Bitcoin and try to piggyback off of its success by coming out with their own scammy coin, just like Hoskinson did. What do these people have in common? Chinese Communist Party, Keynesian professors, central bankers. These are people who want to control your life and or harvest you for profits like the altcoin promoters do. There's an old saying that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. China hates Bitcoin now. And so if you're not a fan of the Chinese Communist Party, which I'm not, again, this is not intended obviously against any Chinese people anywhere in the world, Chinese Americans. We're talking about a political party in China that has done a very good job of running the country. It's a very successful country, but at a huge human expense. Speaking personally, I would not want to live under the CCP. And I imagine there are people in China, a lot of people like the CCP, a lot of people don't like the CCP. But I'm personally not a fan of the CCP. CCP hates Bitcoin now. If you're not a fan of the CCP, it's interesting if you have to side with China in your quest to hate on Bitcoin. So I think these are things that are very important to talk about and to think about, and how the world is naturally dividing itself into two camps. And you have to ask yourself, honestly, which camp do you want to be in? If you find yourself in the same camp with the central bankers and the Chinese Communist Party, I would suggest that something has gone wrong somewhere in your thought process, or more likely in your indoctrination process, growing up and going to school. I wanted to extend the giveaway of 10 free monthly subscriptions to Trader University Premium, where you'll get access to all my courses, and you'll get access to my list of momentum stocks, long-term investments, etc. And I'm in the process of creating a Bitcoin course as well, a very in-depth Bitcoin course that I'm going to offer through my website. If you'd like a chance to win access to this, click the link in the description notes below. It'll take you to this page, and you can enter your email. It's also a good idea to get on my email list in case I'm ever taken down by YouTube. My channel was deleted for a couple hours on Friday. It looks like it was an honest mistake by YouTube, so I thank them for resurrecting it. But there could come a time in the future when you never know what's going to be banned on YouTube. Maybe they won't want me next year saying bad things about the Chinese Communist Party. You just never know. And so if I disappear overnight, if you're on my email list, at least you'll have a way of staying in touch. If you don't want to join my email list and I somehow disappear, I'll still have my Trader University website. It's www.trader.university. If you enter the email list, though, you'll get a chance to, I'm going to do this giveaway tomorrow. I'll draw 10 names or 10 email addresses from this list. I want to apologize for my voice in this video. I'm getting over a head cold and a little bit croaky. If you wonder why I sound a little bit funny, but definitely getting better. If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit that subscribe and like button. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. Let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. If you're a Bitcoin hodler, this ban is nothing to worry about. In fact, it is definitely a positive in my opinion. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.